I have a question for one of my sources.
Oh boy.
To ask you this.
Yes.
So, your first 2 years will set the stage. You ran an I formation, more of an under center offense.
Yep.
Post COVID, that changes. You're in the spread. Talk about that, coach. You get to open it up more. And you had a pretty special quarterback to do it.
Yeah, well, I changed that because against St. Paul's, we played him in a bowl game and we lost our starting tight end, our starting running back, and we were built on that heavier offense. And we lost a game that we didn't play well, but when I finally decided to open it up and do things like we should have, we scored on them. That was the genesis of that. Like, you know what, I'm not going to do it anymore. It's too hard. We're relying on these two positions. And that was like, we need to change things up. And we had a kid, before Hudson came in, we had Colton Fahey, who was all league at quarterback. And he was the one that game we won 52-43, had 7 touchdown passes against Dexter. He wasn't a big kid. He ended up going to Bowdoin, not as a quarterback, a receiver, set record as Bowdoin's at receiver. But I mean, this kid had like stones. So he's perfect. I was going to that and I'm looking at my play sheets and it's like, here's a run play action pass and here's my 3 wides. I'm like, no more. I'm going here and I'm doing this. And I simplified everything. But that was the genesis of that and it was great. And then we start bringing in kids that fit that more. And I thought it was just a better way for us to win. It was a lot easier to get some good skill guys, especially when they got the quarterback, than do it the other way. So.
Yeah, but 21, you guys undefeated. I was at a few of your games. That was a complete team. Talk about the 2021 team.
Yeah, that changed. What we changed there is the spread, but now we implemented more of power read, zone read, quarterback run, RPOs. Like that's with Hudson's when we really opened it up because he was a smart kid. And it changed everything. It was, nobody really stopped us that year. And I'm sure it was an adjustment for everybody, when you see a new team. I mean, it's easy to see it on tape, but it's hard. And we had a lot of pieces. But the biggest thing is we had top end talent. But when you look at your second and third level guys in terms of tight ends, they were all really good football players. They were some all conference guys that played in college. Hudson got hurt in the bowl game and Alex Terrio came in and threw for 3 touchdown passes. He was our backup quarterback. We had 3 different running backs. We had 4 receivers. But the biggest thing is we changed our philosophy, but we also changed our defensive philosophy. More of a 3-3 stack look. And it was very successful for us. And we had pieces in place like a big nose guard and a middle linebacker. And they controlled everything. So we're, a complete team. Best team I coached. I believe the year before would have been better. Really? Because, we had Billy Stevens, Caleb Clark, Harrison Greenslade. Billy Stevens went to Colby. Caleb Clark went to St. Lawrence. And Harrison went to Georgetown. Harrison was a game changer. He was like Tim Dowd. He was like Chris Colby. COVID just hurt him with recruiting-wise. But those guys would have played, although, Hudson and Colby and some of those other guys would have been a year younger. But those guys were good. We were 8-1 that year. Yeah. We beat Proctor in a bowl game, and we were figuring ourselves out. We changed our offense. Hudson was coming in, so we're adding all that stuff. I think that team would have been better because I think some of those other teams would have been catching up a little bit, But it worked out. But I think that 18-19, those 2 groups are the 2 best teams that I had, and they would have beat a lot of pretty good teams,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, you only lost, I think, I was looking
1 game in those 2 years,
Yeah, so you watched 1 game in those 2 years. I think you went 30-something in 5?
Yeah.
Why were you able to have success there?
I always thought that winning was during the week. You win the game during the week. So I thought one thing that I loved is practice structure and having played at high school, college, and professional level, right? All these different systems about how to practice. The X's and O's aside, right? You're going to have your philosophy, but how you schedule practice, expectations from the team. How do you present those expectations, right? How do you get them to buy into the expectations? I can't even count how many coaches I've had, right, that have done these different things, whether it's positionally, whether it's offensive coordinator or that next left as the head coach, right? It started within practice and something, being here now, I'll have to change, right? It's just philosophy and practice and toughness and sense of urgency and stuff like that. And I was lucky. You have kids that buy in, that's transition goes smoothly. You don't, it could be rough, but it's different. It's not like professional where you're like, we'll just get new guys. Here, you got to work with what you got at the high school level, right? We had talent. You can lose with talent. It's hard to win without talent. If anybody tells you that, then they're just trying to write a book or something. But I think how we structured practice, how I treat the kids and how I held them accountable, right? They just kind of followed along and they believed in it. And we won a lot of games where you kind of just didn't make mistakes or we came from behind. So they learned some toughness, mental toughness. We figured that out, that grit to it to win some of those tough games. But yeah, once you get it rolling and kids start believing, right? You start winning games you probably shouldn't win. And that's one thing I do appreciate in my time of all those games games. You know, we lost to Dexter and we lost to St. Paul's. And then we lost to Hamden Hall one year, and they were like a juggernaut. They went undefeated a couple years ago. Like, we never lost to teams that we should beat, which I like. You know, we were losing to teams that, you know what, they're pretty damn good football teams. And you split against those teams, and we did pretty good. So the kids bought in, and it's just kind of a philosophy. You know, I think it comes from practice, getting them ready to play. He's kind of in the barn. They know what they're doing. I mean, you know, you got to make some adjustments on game day, but I'm telling you, most of it, especially at the high school level, like you see it during the week.